How We Make Movies is brought to you by Microsoft Surface, Assimilate, Azo, and hosted by the film collective WeMakeMovies.org. Hello and welcome back to How We Make Movies. I'm your host, Amanda Lippert, and today's guests are writer-director Sarah Smick and writer-producer Ian Michaels from the new indie dark comedy Friended to Death, starring Ryan Hansen. Please give a warm welcome to Sarah and Ian. Thank you guys for joining us today. So your trailer right now is one of the top viewed trailers on iTunes. Is that right?
Yeah, it's been the last week or two, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not on there checking every day, but people from our team have said, it was #1 the other day, apparently.
I'll check every day.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty phenomenal feat for an indie film. I think that's what everybody wants, is for their film to get seen, and people are really seeking it out, and it's getting exposure, so congratulations on that.
Thanks. Yeah, we're really fortunate.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Can you guys describe the film for us?
Sure. It's a dark comedy about a guy who fakes his death on Facebook and Twitter to find out who of his so-called friends actually care about him and show up to his funeral. And it's a lot of fun, but it also gives this sort of satiric take on what social media might be doing to our culture and how it might be warping us as its users. So it's a lot of fun, definitely something for people to check out.
Do you guys want to see the trailer?
I'm the Batman, a parking enforcement. Time to save the city. Loser. That meter's broken.
Can't you just cut us some slack?
Yeah, I'll cut you some slack. You can keep the bag.
Suck it, meter douche!
LMFAO. WTF, man! How could you forget to invite me to your birthday party?
Nobody likes you.
I have 417 people that would disagree with you.
Social networks don't count, you loser. You could die and no one would care.
It's too bad you can't see who come to your funeral. Find out who your real friends are.
Who says you can't? What's your password? Dear friends. R.I.P. Michael Harris, taken from us all too soon.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
What?
No.
Why?
Nope.
Done. It's Michael. He's gone.
Why?
Batman.
Your wall is blowing up. There's already 22 likes.
That's fantastic.
What? 22 people are saying they like that you're dead.
Oh.
What would happen to someone if they got caught faking their own death?
He's not dead. None of this is real.
You're in denial. Just accept it.
I am not going to jail for this. Who?
WWBD. What would Batman do?
You look like a pervert who can't afford a rapo van.
Can you please clarify?
You're an idiot.
She's blackmailing you?
What does she want?
What do most stalkers want? Oh, sex. It can be a real aphrodisiac.
As much as having fire hose diarrhea.
Like a social media terrorist.
We are not having a funeral for you.
I want to get to the bottom of this. He's dead. Wake up.
People are going to be so pissed when they find out that you're faking.
Are you kidding me? They're going to rejoice that I'm alive. Oh. It'll be like Easter. The comments don't lie. Check this out. So sad with count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exclamation points. Wow.
How did this film come about?
There's a couple different sort of instigating moments, but we had read an article about a guy who faked his death in life, and we thought that was ridiculous and weird and interesting, and I wanted to make a movie about social media for a long time, particularly Facebook, because I've been on for so long. I've been on since virtually the beginning, and we decided it would be really fascinating to take that concept of a guy who fakes his death and place it in the context of social media and use that to explore what sites like Facebook and Twitter are doing to us and our culture and our lives and relationships, and use it to kind of do a take on a vision of what we might be becoming. So that was sort of the impulse behind it, and then once we started, it kind of snowballed and became its own thing.
Yeah, I've always had a really big interest in anti-heroes too, and the story that we read, actually the guy was such a douchebag that he invited all of these people to his funeral, and the only person that showed up was his mother. Yeah, and so
This is the real life
the
guy.
real life guy,
Yeah.
yeah. And so he ends up writing 44 handwritten letters to his so-called friends, you know, berating them for not showing up at his funeral. And it's just like, what makes a guy like that work, really?
Who's the worst friend, really?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just fascinating stuff. And like I said, we really like anti-heroes, and it just kind of fit.
Well, your anti-hero, played by Ryan Hansen, who is in Party Down. He's on, so what are some of the other shows that he's on right now?
Veronica Mars.
Veronica Mars, that was a popular one.
Yeah, the movie, Veronica Mars movie just came out like a month or two ago, so that was kind of nice timing. But
he was on a TV show called Friends with Benefits a few years back, and then most recently Bad Teacher.
Bad Teachers ago.
Yeah, he plays the anti-hero in a lot of things very well. Yeah.
He kind of reminded me of the mustache character from Orange is the New Black.
Oh, yeah.
And
I haven't seen that, actually.
Yeah. I've heard this, but yeah, I haven't.
It's good that you guys didn't take any inspiration for him, because he brings his own flavor to it, but he's just that kind of character that just gets under your skin, and you don't want to be his friend, but you love to watch him, and you love to watch him lose at life.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
What were some of the challenges of writing a good and likable anti-hero?
That's tough. I mean, you know, anytime you write an anti-hero, you have to find an area where the audience has sympathy for the character. Otherwise, it's like, why watch the movie? So making other characters that were actually worse than he was quite the challenge, because he was a pretty bad guy for the most part. But also, I think a lot of, you know, Sarah, you could talk about this, just some of the things that was going on with his character. You really want to make them kind of admirable to the character themselves. Like, for example, with his job, he's, you know, a meter maid, which, you know, most people don't like meter maids, but you know, he really thought he was good at his job. He's really, you know, wants to move up in the meter maid hierarchy that's around.
And really, you know, he really believes that he's doing something good. And he's defending the law. I guess in theory, yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
You know, and he really prides himself on it. And so in a weird way, according to his bizarre logic, he isn't a bad guy for doing that. His style is just very juvenile and immature and naive. And he's so self-absorbed, it's hard for him to understand that. But then when you watch the film and you realize sort of some of the things in his backstory that are motivating him to be the person that he is, it becomes a little less detestable and a little more pitiable, I guess, or his character does, and hopefully. but you see, I think when you're able to pity someone, you don't quite hate them as much, because it's just so sad.
Yeah.
You know?
He thinks he's Batman.
Yeah, I think, he thinks he's Batman, and I think in the beginning, he is a guy you love to hate.
I just put it together where maybe some of that reference might have come from. And I don't want to give away the story, but it has to do with his parents and, you know, like some other sad things that happened in his past that he would think he was Batman.
Yeah.
That's all. Oh.
Yeah.
And Batman is one of the most recognizable anti-heroes, really.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, you know, you said that part of the way that you know, also built him up as a likable character was to write more detestable characters. Yeah. You guys got to play a couple of those.
Well, thanks. I thought it was really...
No, I mean that in the best way
really
possible.
likable.
I hated you guys. Your character especially was so funny. There was, you did some things with sound effects and your eyes that just like I lost it a little bit. What was it like to direct yourself, and like what were some of the challenges of being in front of the camera and behind the camera on the same day?
Yeah, it's tough. You know, it's a lot to juggle at once, and the two jobs are so different. There are a lot of similarities and overlap, but for me, when I'm acting, I want to be as present as I possibly can be and listen and in the moment, and not be worried about, you know, are we getting the shot, or, you know, I want to just be the character focused, and it's tough because as the director, I found myself needing to be 3 steps ahead of everyone all the time, which is, tough to do in and of itself, but especially when you're in the take, you're so present, and then the take's done, and then, it's okay, did we get that? And then also, how much time do we have left in the day? And do we need to jump ahead? Like, do we need to just say we got it and move on? And, I had to rely a lot on the rest of my team and their judgment of whether or not we got the take. Now, I watched a lot of playback when I could, but sometimes you just don't have time for it.
Yeah.
And,
Or the capability, really.
or, depending on where we were, where we were shooting and where we were set up for the day. But it's a lot of, for me, it was a lot of trusting the conversations that I had with the rest of our team before we started shooting. And we all got on the same page, so we knew what we were going for, what we were trying to get, what the vision was. And then trusting their judgment and trusting my own sense of whether or not I felt, like I did well in a certain take, or if it gelled or whatnot. So I think just rolling with it and keeping in mind that I was given the advice that perfect is the enemy of good. I'm a major perfectionist, so if I could sit there and keep shooting it over and over and over and over again until it got better and better, I would. But I had to really keep that in mind that you can't just sit there and keep shooting over and over. You have to.
And I come from the school of perfect is the enemy of making your day.
Exactly.
So we found a happy balance somewhere along the way there.
Were you there to help on those days?
Sure.
You were able to step in
as much as
produce
I could. It was fortunate enough to play one of the smaller roles in the film.
There are no small parts.
Sure. Only small actors.
I've seen some small actors.
We have one in the film. So, I was able to be on set, and, the days that I wasn't shooting, able to step in behind monitor with the DP, and, days that actually, I don't think we had any scenes together at all, aside from towards the end.
Yeah.
There's the one.
There's one brief little scene.
Yeah, but we were able to work it so that we were never really both in front of the camera at the same time.
And I would always, there were days where I'd be, doing a scene and I wasn't sure, and Ian would be off doing some producer duty of sorts.
Like getting coffee.
Get Ian! I need Ian! Get Ian on the monitor, quick! We gotta go! I need him to see this. So, I think we have such a great working relationship and trust, and we knew we were on the same page completely. So same goes. We just could trust each other's judgment.
And you guys also said that you did a lot of preparation with your team, so you were prepared. Had you worked with that team before, or was this the first time that you worked with that DP and a lot of members of your core?
A lot of them we had not worked with before. I'm trying to think because
some of them. We had shot another movie a few years ago called Here's the Kicker, and there were.
Is that how you guys met?
That's how we met. Yeah. We cast Sarah in the lead role randomly. It's kind of a funny story too.
Tell us the story.
Well, it was. We had we were auditioning at Film Independent, and we had 2 cancellations back to back, which they were the only cancellations that day, and. Next door, they were shooting like a soccer promo or something.
The Fox soccer channel, something or other.
And,
I was auditioning for.
And we were looking for the lead female, and sure enough, one of the producers was like, maybe we should check and see if any of these girls reading for the commercial want to come in instead of sitting here with our thumbs up our butt all day long, And I went outside and opened the door, and Sarah was sitting there, and she was. Hey, would you like to come read?
That's funny. I was expecting you to be like, angels flew down from the heavens.
It was.
She was like,
that was my impression of an angel. Okay, that was how I see angels. You looked great. You got the role.
Wow,
you got the part. But she got the part, and she booked the soccer
Fox
thing too,
which was pretty cool.
That's a good day for you.
Yeah, that never happens.
And now you weren't directing at that point. Is that correct?
Not yet. Yeah.
And this is your feature debut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did moving past the name of the film again?
It was called Here's the Kicker.
Past Here's the Kicker. What did you guys work on together next, and how did this relationship evolve to the point that you were able to make this feature?
we started writing together after that feature because I had done screenwriting in college and Ian obviously had been writing because he had written Here's the Kicker. And we realized we had similar sensibilities in terms of our writing and our humor and just kind of the movies we wanted to make. And so we started writing and did a feature script that we didn't end up making, actually.
Yeah, we got close, and it was funny. Another weird story, we went up to Big Bear to location scout for the thing, and we just had one of the worst experiences ever. Our laptop got stolen, and our car got stuck, and it was just
a nightmare.
Yeah, it was a bad trip.
Yeah,
It was a bonding experience.
It was. It definitely was.
Moral of the story, guard your laptop when you're on like scouting trips. Like, my gosh, it was devastating.
Yeah, it was rough.
But yeah, it was a bonding experience.
It totally was. Yeah.
But we never ended up making that one.
Yeah.
Perhaps partly because of that trip. But you know, we got on the same page more and more with each, thing we wrote.
And then we went into Old Souls, which was a web series that we shot. And that was really your first.
That was the first thing I directed, and we
What
made
year
that a
did
few
you
years
make
ago.
that?
I want to say 2011.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so it was
Something like
semi-recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the project we did right before we started this or started Friended to Death. So it was probably about 3 years ago. Something like
Did you
that.
have the script written for Friended to Death at that time?
No.
So
no.
I had a couple pages of a script, maybe not at that time, but at some point around there, I started kind of tinkering with some ideas for Friended to Death. And then, but once we started writing it, it was a completely different project. But going back to your original question, we used some of the same crew members on Old Souls as well as Here's the Kicker. And then, there are certain people that you just really like to work with.
Yeah.
And they've stayed with us the whole time. We've been fortunate enough to provide them with opportunities too, when they're not or when they're available.
But then, of course, we found all kinds of new crew members that we worked with on Friended to Death because it was a much bigger thing than Old Souls. Old Souls is a web series. And granted, a lot went into it production value-wise. It's about two 25-year-old actresses who can't book any work because they're told that they seem a lot older than they look. So they have these old souls, and so they decide, screw it, let's embrace our old souls. We're going to dress up like old women, like Mrs. Doubtfire, and start hitting the audition circuit to give Betty White some competition.
Yeah.
She has none.
But with prosthetic makeup
so
and
full
everything
on prosthetic
too,
makeup. I mean, it was intense, and I played one of the leads,
Yeah.
and I was directing for the first time, and it was one of the most intense experiences of my working career.
You were in makeup for like 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and then we'd shoot for 12, and then to get out of makeup was another 2 hours. Or
So
hour
you just
and a half.
didn't sleep for months.
Well, she didn't. I
Well,
slept the whole
it's
time.
hard to eat in the prosthetic makeup too, because it's like around your mouth, and if you move your mouth too much, the glue comes undone.
So you're like on a liquid diet?
Yeah, we were like drinking. It was really, really hard physically.
Kind of character work for old people being on the
yeah.
drinking through straws.
So, but having done that, I think it prepared me big time to do the feature because I was kind of scared to. I think anybody would be scared to tackle their first feature, but I certainly was, and I kind of clung to that knowledge. Well, I shot a web series where I played the lead in prosthetic makeup much of the time, and I had to get to set at like 4 a.m. for the 8 a.m. call shoot, and then it was pretty intense. So I knew if I could do that, I could do the feature not in prosthetic makeup the whole time.
And your costumes and makeup were really fun, but there was nothing so out of the ordinary, uncomfortable that you had to get there 4 hours early.
Yeah, exactly. It was a little more normal. Yeah.
So you didn't go to film school, but you're directing your first feature with a background in writing and English and theater. Did you find it challenging, or what was your biggest challenge in getting over, I guess, the technical hurdles of being a director?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge of not having gone to film school was that little voice in your head that says, I didn't go to film school. Is this okay that I'm doing this? But beyond that, I really didn't. I felt like in a way it was freeing that I didn't know what I didn't know, And I had done a lot of, like a good amount of reading on the technical stuff of what and I also had acted for a long time, so I had been on a lot of sets and I'd seen other directors work and watched the crew, and so I to an extent I did I did have a lot more knowledge than I would have had I just kind of like shown up to Hollywood one day with no degree in film and said like, I'm here to direct a movie. I have a lot more.
You read a lot of books.
Yeah,
too.
I had a lot more
And
going into it.
I think the acting experience really helps a lot. There's a lot of directors that I've worked with that they have the technical side down pat, and they've come from a like very extensive school, but they can't like speak actor, and then you're standing there confused during the scene.
I remember a director once telling me, you need to be more manipulative. And like looking at him like,
what does that mean?
But you can't, I don't think I'm manipulative. I think I'm a good person. I'm just doing these actions. How am I supposed to play that? And so like being able to speak to actors, I think is probably a huge part of it. And that was probably one of your big assets.
Well, that's what I've been on the same receiving end that you were just describing and because I've acted for a long time and worked with directors that had a lot of technical knowledge, but didn't have the other component of skilled directing, which like Ian said, I think is the ability to communicate what you need to communicate to an actor to elicit the performance that is going to make the film shine as a whole. And so you can't just say, make it faster. You need to know to say, make it more urgent, and this is why. Or there's a way there is like a language of speaking actor that if you haven't taken acting classes or worked a lot with actors or you had some sort of understanding of it, it's difficult to to do. So I think Ian is right in the sense that I was able to bring that to it, and in a very second nature sort of way, that then because the fact that I didn't have all of the technical knowledge wasn't as paralyzing or intimidating, because I had a lot more bandwidth to deal with that, to focus on compensating in that area. And then of course I trusted my team. We had a really, brilliant cinematographer, and, all the other crew members we brought on were great. And I had a solid sense of the vision that I had for the film and what I wanted it to look like and feel like and accomplish. And we talked about that and developed a visual language for how to do that. And it just worked out. But I think from my sense, from my experience, as limited as it is in the grand scheme of things, I do think that a lot of directing is intuitive, and you can kind of, if you know what your vision is and you know how to communicate it, that's probably the two most important things, at least as far as I found. Not to say that you shouldn't be always growing and learning, but I didn't feel like the lack of technical knowledge stopped me in a literal sense. It was,
I didn't think you had a lack of technical knowledge. I'll be honest. I think that by the time we were shooting, you knew more than a lot of people. And I think it's one of those things that, maybe you didn't go through 6 years of film school learning technical knowledge and things. I think, you had enough shooting the web series and learning from that experience. I mean, that was essentially like shooting 4 short films. We shot 1 episode a month for, a few different months. And that was just like coming back to shooting a short film over and over and over again.
Yeah, you do learn a lot doing it. And I'm like, I put my ego aside, and if I don't know what something is, I just ask. Yeah. And it can be embarrassing, but
and we hired a lot of people that were really great.
We really
very supportive people, and that was, we were discussing this before, like, the real genius is somebody who hires people smarter than them to,
or people who could do their job better than we can do their job. Yeah.
So if your greatest asset was your intuition and ability to work with actors, from day one of the web series to the last day of shooting on the film, what was the biggest lesson that you took away in being a director?
Damn. She just threw it out there.
I would have to come back to trusting your vision for what you want the project to be, and keeping enough flexibility to receive input from your collaborators to make it even better. Because you don't want to have this like fixed static idea that just can't be changed no matter what. Because I think that's kind of counterproductive in the long run. But I do think that just trusting your vision, for so, you know, whatever it may be. Because what else? I mean, I don't know. Who cares, like, how or why you get there or what? You know, it doesn't matter how you get there. It's that you get there and that it is what you wanted it to be or you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And why does the rest really matter? You know, it's kind of like, you know, sushi comes out looking great. Who cared how the sushi chef made it? If they looked weird while they were making it, or if they like used strange tools, who cares? It looks good. It tastes good. It's sushi. And it's there, you know, like, I don't, that's a really, really weird analogy. But, and maybe it just means I'm hungry, but I don't know. I feel like for me also, I've done a lot of reading about women in film and just women in careers in general and why there's a gap between, you know, men and women in terms of how many there are particularly in film, trying to make it in the more technical behind the camera side. And even also in writing. But there's an article actually in the Atlantic magazine this month about the confidence gap. And I just think women, it says, underestimate their abilities a lot more than men typically. And I totally see that in myself. And I'm sure other women do it too. And so I think that is why I think the most valuable thing in my opinion, is just the ability to trust what you want the movie to be or the project to be. Just trust that. Don't second guess yourself, you know, build on it and let it flourish. But, you know,
and a lot of people will come in and second guess you and, you know, try to convince you to do something else or take a shot a different way. You know, Sarah was always really great, not to boost your ego too much here, but
we wouldn't want to do that.
I second guess myself too much for that.
But she was always really great about, you know, finding a way or, you know, finding a path or making one, really. Mm-hmm. And there was one instance with our cinematographer, the one shot with the computer laptop.
Yeah.
You might want to tell
actually,
you tell it better than I will.
It's kind of fun. So, but Ian's point about find a way or make a way, that was my high school motto, believe it or not. But I cannot tell you how helpful it has been in my life and in my career, because I had this idea for a shot that I had spoken to my DP about it. We both really liked the idea of it and thought it would be great as like a cornerstone for the visual language of the movie. Mm-hmm. And we thought in theory, in practice, my DP, Jimmy Liu is his name, he's awesome. He said, I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to pull it off, like technically, logistically, given the equipment that we have access to and the time and whatever our restraints. And I said, well, maybe there's another way. Maybe we can come up with some unforeseen route to go about achieving it and doing it well. And he was, uncertain, but he said, all right, fine, let me think about it. And he came to set the first day of the shoot, and he had this bizarre wooden contraption with him that looked like somebody had gone to Home Depot and gotten plywood and a hammer and nails.
Not a pretty
and
thing
a hinge
at all,
and built this weird thing. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, I built this so we can get that shot that we wanted to get, that we didn't think we could get with the tripod that we were renting. So she's like, I built it. I was like, I love you. B, this is awesome.
He made a way.
That he was willing to go there and to say okay, maybe normally someone would say, we can't do that. We need to we need to think of a different shot. And I said, well, I'm willing to do that if we really have to, but I don't think we're at that point yet. I don't think we have to yet. And he just did it, and he went there with me, and it was really, I don't know, it was just really cool.
I love that, because I think it's one of the key markings of an indie filmmaker is you're always working with less, and so you're really trying to make the most of what you have, and stretch it and just find those creative ways of getting what it is that you want and getting that story across. That's amazing.
Agreed. Yeah, you hear all these stories of people with putting the camera on a skateboard and that's their dolly. And, you know.
I've done that. I've totally done that.
Did it work out?
Yeah, it was a great shot.
Sweet.
We were passing a dead body and getting the reaction shots of everyone involved.
Cool.
It was very fun.
At the end of the day, nobody knows that that's what you did, and they're watching the movie and they're like, "This is awesome. It looks really good. The cinematography is spectacular on this." And, I used a skateboard. How do you like that?
You guys had some really interesting locations. The lead character worked as a meter maid, and he was in some government offices at some point and had to walk out. Did you guys get permits for that location? How was it working with the local LA government?
Well, we weren't permitted to shoot in that building.
Yeah.
We were permitted to shoot on the street out in front. So hopefully it looks like he's actually walking out of the building in the shots, but he's not. He never actually crossed the threshold at all. And so the day we shot that in Hollywood, and
shot most of the movie in Hollywood. And a little bit of trivia is a lot of the addresses in the film are old film noir references. So like 641 Irving, which is Emil's house, is actually the address of the house from Sunset Boulevard, the actual address for the house.
there's a number of those planted in. Some of them we had to tweak slightly for privacy issues because those are actual addresses.
Yeah.
But going back to the Hollywood location, this went for a lot of our locations where we were permitted to shoot on the street, but not in necessarily that specific building.
Yeah.
And so the day we were there at his parking enforcement office, there was the woman that was working just inside the doors was not happy with us being there, even though we were legally allowed to.
It's an LAPD center that you can go, and all the parking enforcement people hang out there, and you can go and report crimes there if you want to. Probably don't want to. But,
Not with this lady.
The lady, our permit said that we had to be 5 feet from the doorway, from the entrance to the building. And this lady was having a bad life. Came outside and complained about us multiple times. And, we would say, well, we're 5 feet from here. And so she moved these two massive, plants out onto the sidewalk to
big
kind of
red pots.
Yeah.
Big, obvious red potted plants.
Yeah, and called the police, and the police came and they looked, and she said, "They're not 5 feet from here, from my plants." And the cops were like, "Well, they don't have to be 5 feet from your plants. They just got to be 5 feet from your door. They're fine. Let them go." So we were like, "Yeah, we got a permit. We got to use it."
But I gotta say, I was not happy though, because this whole plant debacle happened halfway into our shoot, or into the shoot at that location.
Yeah.
So half of our footage has no big, ginormous red potted plants, and half of it does.
You'll never know.
So if you look in the movie, there's a cut where you see, the wide, there's no plants, and then we cut to the side angle, and there's these huge red potted plants. Thank you so much.
Well,
Awesome.
if it makes you feel better, I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah,
I think you're the only one who noticed.
I actually, and a lot of the time I don't even notice. So it's amazing what you can get away with in terms of non-continuity.
I don't think I noticed that until
so after
one
it's
of the
been locked.
screenings a few months ago,
Oh, really?
a month or two ago.
There you go.
So there was another location that we were going to shoot at that we had gotten verbal permission from the owner to shoot there. So at some point during pre-pro we had gotten that, and then when we went on the day, they just didn't want to let us shoot there anymore, and we didn't have anything in writing because it was one of these real quick things where it was only from the outside, or there were only a few shots. It was not particularly invasive for them, and they didn't want it all of a sudden, and we said, all right, fine. So I remember we had a little convened real quickly, and I said, well, then go in and tell them, fine, we're just going to shoot somewhere else, and let them have the free advertising instead of you guys. And they ended up coming around, but it was just kind of eye-opening to realize you got to get everything in writing.
It's a lesson. Get everything in writing. I don't care if it's you're shooting at your mother's house or something. It's just get
I need you to
simple
sign
thing.
this contract.
Seriously, get it. I've seen it happen where friends and relatives, and they get weird the day of, or even afterward. It's things happen, and
that goes for more than just your location contracts. Every contract, everything.
Name and likeness.
Get a contract.
Everything
in writing. I don't care if it's your friend. I don't care if you think never in a million years would we disagree about anything.
Yeah.
You do not know what is possible.
Yeah.
Take it from me. Get everything in writing.
You don't have to be a jerk about it.
No, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Is that when you get the contract squared away in the beginning, then you don't have to be. Then
Yeah.
there's no one has to be a jerk later.
Just have your
because
line
it's just-
producer make them fill it out.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
It's- yeah.
I don't want the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, third party. It has, and then you get to be the good cop, and it's taken care of, and everybody's protected.
I just tell people,
So-
I blame it on distribution a lot and just say like, hey, listen, I know that, nothing would ever happen here, but can I just get this signed? Because when we go for distribution, they want to make sure that everything's, locked in.
Which
So
is
here
true.
you go.
You need a chain of title. You need to be able
Yeah.
to give all those contracts to your distributor and say, here, this is actually a free and clear, product that you can go and sell or license and not have some person come back and say, oh, I never signed a name and
Yeah.
likeness. So.
One of the things that I think is really fun about your personal story and process also is that this film for you kind of got bigger than you thought it was going to be. A lot of times indie filmmakers start out and they're like, all right, this is our resources, this is what we got, what can we do with it? And you guys were, are very charismatic and enthusiastic and just got more and more people involved along the way.
Please.
And it just kept
Keep
going.
going.
Can you talk about the process of how it started out as this little thing, this little idea, and how it grew into a bigger project and how you got Ryan involved?
Yeah, it was kind of a surreal experience. We had originally written this, so since I come from an acting background, which nobody knows that at all.
One of the lead actors.
We had written, I actually starred in Here's the Kicker, too, with Sarah. And we had written the role of Michael, the lead in Friended to Death, for those who haven't seen it, for me to play, naturally. And we were looking for a very small amount of money to just make it kind of like an independent thing. And we were going to, do the best job we could with what we could get. And when we started talking to investors about it, we were given the option of, okay, listen, we'll give you half the money and then you have to go and continue to raise the rest of the financing on your own. And you could play whatever role you want, or you recast the lead role and we give you all the money that you need and even a tiny bit more to help get somebody worthwhile in the lead role.
What do
Somebody
you do?
would know.
Yeah, when does that ever happen? So, I threw my ego under the table and flushed it down the toilet, whatever you want to say. It was like, cool, can I play one of the other roles, something smaller? And yeah, you play whatever you want to play, just not the lead role. And, I think you'd have to be a fool not to take that deal. And so we went from that to, bringing Ryan on board, Ryan was somebody that I think we got him the script. He was one of the guys at the top of our list, and we were massive Party Down fans, and sent the script over to his agent, fingers crossed, and, read it and got a phone call the next day or the day after that. It was pretty quick turnaround and hey, we really like it. We want to set up a meeting with you. And, what, really? Whoa, that's great. And, we met and we all really got along well. And, he's just very charismatic and likable. And we needed somebody like that in that role,
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
he's
that-
got natural charisma and
Yeah,
charm. And
it helps the anti-hero thing tremendously. So once we got the opportunity to work with Ryan, it was, from there we just kind of kept moving. And then it was, well, we want to get better this for him. And, we want to you kind of have to put a little bit more money into your supporting actors at that point as well. And so, brought on board Zach McGowan and went through kind of an extensive casting process with the other roles and never looked back really. So.
yeah.
That's so cool. I noticed you guys had a lot of really cool sets, and I noticed Apple logos everywhere. Did you guys work with sponsors, or how did you get a lot of, I guess, locations and stuff like that?
We didn't do any sponsorship. We do have approval to use Apple's logos.
Yeah, we got clearance for sure.
Clearance for that.
Yeah. Which is something I would recommend to all filmmakers. Go and get clearance for everything in your script because Apple has been really supportive too.
Yeah, it wasn't hard at all.
Yeah, it was pretty
Everyone's
easy.
always like running around hiding the Apple logo.
Yeah.
Just ask them for clearance.
Who do you
They'll
contact?
probably give it to
Is
you.
there like a phone number on their website?
There
like,
is. We
Our
had our
production attorney did it for us. But yeah, there's I guess an email.
Yeah, there's an email.
Email
You just
person.
email, then they get back to you. You might have to be a little persistent about it for the first day or two, but they'll get back to you and they'll say, okay, we want to read the script, and they want to make sure, mainly that you're not using their product in any sort of disparaging way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and how
You
would
have to-
that? What would be disparaging?
well, you don't want like somebody sticking an iPhone where the sun doesn't shine, and
You
something
have
it's
to-
not meant for.
Yeah, you have to use the product for something that its intended use.
Mhm.
So, if you're making phone calls or posting online or, whatever, that's fine. But like Ian said, if you're using it as a
Putting out your
suppository,
butt,
no, it's not fine. They're not going to clear that. So.
And what about Facebook? Were they just as easy to work with?
Facebook is, because the film sort of offers different opinions about the validity and, dangers of social media. Facebook, we kind of anticipated that Facebook was not going to jump on board and say, yeah, like use our logos all over the place.
Yeah.
So we tried to kind of keep it vague enough that it wasn't just Facebook.
Twitter.
There's other social media
Foursquare.
platforms. Granted, Facebook is massive. It is so much bigger than the other social platforms. It's hard. And then there's a certain amount of fair use, too, that you can get away
And
with.
you guys had screenshots for sure. Of,
No.
Or
No.
Well, we
They
had
were all designed.
we had a graphic designer.
They're not
Yeah.
Facebook. If you look very, very closely, it says Facebook.com. B-A-C-K.
Something.
And you just used
But-
similar colors and made the design similar enough that it looked recognizable to the eye and a very quick glance.
Yeah, I think the fact that we shoot it in a quick glance, like, you can manipulate the color. Like, we don't use their colors. We don't use their fonts. We've changed everything to...
It's a little off, but it's also, we went really close on a lot of the like inserts of, the screens and whatnot. We tried to go
Comments.
close enough so that we weren't like gratuitously like, hey, check it out, it's obviously Facebook. Like, we didn't, it's like people are going to read into it that it's Facebook. Facebook is a huge part of our culture. You can't not read into it. You can't like just not, if you, are familiar with, our culture now. So it's hard to sort of completely like not have people make conclusions and whatnot and cut it out entirely. But we also didn't want to like linger on these big wide shots of the whole screen and say, well, we didn't mean Facebook, So it's kind of a balance that we struck, but we definitely had our production attorneys advising as we went. So
And you guys had such heavy themes on social media in this film. It's essentially what it's about. What are your personal takes on social media and how it affects your lives?
Oh, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure, I'll go first. I like Facebook, and I use it to stalk people on a daily basis. Clearly. No, I do like it, and I think it's useful. I think it's a great way to keep in touch with people that I don't necessarily get to stay in touch with and don't really want to be like immediate presence in their life. But, know that my buddy from college just had a kid and say congratulations to him. And I think it's a great way. I kind of use it like a LinkedIn sort of. I unfortunately don't use LinkedIn as I probably should. But just keeping in touch with work colleagues and, shooting them a congrats when their movie comes out or, posting on there and saying like, hey, I need a line producer for this, new project here. Who do I have? Anybody? Can you recommend somebody? And I think it's, useful as long as you use it the right way. But I'm not a big Twitter person. I think I have maybe one follower. It's you, actually. And
maybe after today. We've got live tweeting goes on during the show, and everybody in the audience is following the We Make Movies hashtag as we're talking, and so we're probably tweeting about you, and you don't even know it.
That's awesome. Like, that guy has got a massive nose. It looks even bigger on camera.
I want you to answer the question too, and then we'll actually get to the Twitter questions. What's your take on social media?
My take's kind of complex. I feel like social media has a lot of uses. It's great for marketing, but and other things. But I don't know. It feels like a job. It feels so overwhelming and misrepresentative of people's lives. For me, like I don't know. We posted a lot for the movie, and we've had a lot of great press and buzz, and we've been getting it out there, and we have a team that does it. Like if it was on me, it wouldn't happen, or it would happen, but only a little bit.
And me, it would happen, but not well.
So there are people on our team that do that, and thank goodness. But it's just so. I'm sure there are people from my past, high school or middle school or whatever, who see, oh, Sarah's doing really well. Look, she's got this movie, and I'm like, that's like one little facet of my life, Like there's a lot I don't put up there,
I'm sure your high school principal would love to know that you've taken his message and like
her,
her. My bad.
Yeah, no, definitely, but like it's so limited, and I think people use it and craft this version of themselves that they want the world to see, and they kind of put it out there, and that's what people see, and people subconsciously or not make assumptions about whether or not that's the totality of where you're at in your life right now, and then that breeds either encouragement or resentment or depression. A sense of loneliness and depression, or like, oh great, I'll never catch up with that. And then on the flip side, it's somebody who appears to be doing great, has other stuff going on in their life that nobody knows about. And I just think it's kind of dangerous in that regard, and dangerous in the sense also that if users expect to get fulfilling, meaningful relationships out of it, I don't know that that's really completely possible, unfortunately. So I like Ian said, I think if you're using it for the right reasons and your expectations are realistic, I guess. I don't think it's awful. It's not a bad thing, but it does need to be used responsibly and in limited ways, I think.
I think those are all very major themes in the movie too. So your sentiment definitely came across in subtle ways. Well, we'll get started with some Twitter questions from our audience members. This first one is for Sarah from @AubreyMozzino, and she asked, have you found you're perceived differently now as an actor after producing and writing your own content, and in what ways?
What a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do, and I'm trying to like translate it into words. I definitely feel like I'm taken more seriously in general, but sometimes people don't necessarily, it depends. Sometimes people just don't realize, they don't have known me as an actor, and they don't realize that I did this project. And then when they, like, oh, you did a movie? Oh, do you play the lead? And I'm like, no, I play the supporting role. And actually we made it and I directed it. And like, oh, it's like very surprised.
Well, you got a call for an audition the other day, even that was kind of a random thing that.
But I
don't know that they know that you made a movie.
I think I don't know. I'm still sort of figuring it out. It's in progress, but I definitely noticed there's a shift, and I've noticed that people now are using the whole. Like, they'll have a project they want to get off the ground. And of course, anytime you have a movie you want to get going, you ask anyone and everyone that might possibly lead to some sort of financing, because that's just what you do.
Yeah.
But it's funny now, I'll notice people sort of throw me a, hey, there's a role in this for you if you can help us find money. Okay.
Another producer credit.
Like, I'll take a finder's fee, but it's kind of interesting. It's evolving, but I don't know. There's not really a conclusive answer as to how it's different or not, but there is that you can see people kind of surprised when they.
She's not just a funny, pretty blonde girl.
You're not just an actress. I don't know. How do I integrate this with my idea of who you are? I'm so confused.
Awesome. The next question is from @BrennanWeinhold, and he asked very directly, how do you pay for everything, and how do you pay for the first thing? And I guess he's probably referring to the first film.
We use Bitcoin. No, I'm just kidding.
That would have been a good investment.
yeah, how do we pay for everything? I mean, the first film was strange. It was like a hodgepodge of like crowd financing for the most part. I put some of my own money in, and then there were friends and family that all contributed to it. With this one, it was a little different. We came across, we got introduced to one specific investor who funded the majority of the film. But I think it's kind of dependent on each project. I think you want to look at your project, and I know a lot of people use Indiegogo and Kickstarter nowadays, and I think that's fantastic, but they don't take into consideration that we need $50,000 to make a movie. We're gonna do Indiegogo for $50,000, and then they don't realize that there are taxes and there's an Indiegogo fee, and there's the incentives that have to actually pay for, and when all's said and done, you've actually accumulated half your money, and you're stuck in limbo, and oh man, what do I do? Like we want to make this movie, but we owe all these people these incentives, and how do you get past that?
Mm-hmm. You're accountable when you hold those campaigns, or those like fundraising.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, financing I think is the most difficult part of making a movie, and yet when you get past it, there are so many more difficult parts that you're like, I don't even remember the financing stage.
I think leveraging is something that we learned to be very useful in the sense that when you have, if you can even just get a little bit of money, and you can leverage it to get something, whether it's money, more money, or a name attached, or anything of value, then you can use that to leverage the next thing of value. And you may lose the first thing of value at that point, but it doesn't matter because you've already got something to leverage, and then you leverage that and you keep leveraging. And that dance is amazing what you can generate if you know how to be nimble. And and this is something that we've talked about a lot. You want to have a strong sense of what you want your movie to be, and you don't want to compromise too much such that you lose that. But you don't want to be so idealistic and stiff about it that you can't see an opportunity when it's right in front of you. And maybe it's not quite in the form that you thought it would be in, but it's something, and it's something you can use to leverage to get something else that you can leverage to get something else that you can leverage to get your movie made. So I think that's something we learned is and the whole story about how we wrote it for Ian and ended up having Ryan play the lead, it worked out amazingly. Granted, in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily the movie we thought we were going to make, but we saw an opportunity and we used that to keep, and then you start snowballing. So
and mitigating risk, I think, is a very big important thing that, proving to your investor that you're...
Hold on a second. You're talking Wall Street here. Mitigating risk? What does that mean?
Mitigating...
For your investor.
For your investor. So, making sure that... they're very comfortable with you as a person and know that you went through the process of finding ways.
So you wear this suit every time you show up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't change the suit really at all. Come to think of it.
You want to make your investor feel like you're not just like, oh yeah, we got money, we're gonna go make a movie. We have no idea what's happening. No, you want them to know that you know the risk that's involved in making a movie, and if you try and to convince them, oh, this isn't risky at all.
Yeah, look at Little Miss Sunshine made, $90 million. Those are very rare opportunities or very rare instances that that takes place. Not saying it can't happen to anybody, but...
So what are some of the specific examples of maybe things that you said or proposed that kind of hedged that doubt?
Well, I would go into it first letting everybody know, and in your business plan, letting them know that this is a risky investment. I mean,
any film.
Yeah, no matter how you put it, it's a risky investment. Now, there are, comparable films that you have that, do succeed and do very well, but this is risky. And, but these are the steps we've taken to mitigate that risk. Number one would be any incentives that you can
tax incentives.
Tax incentives. We're shooting in New York, and so they have a 20% tax credit. on anything that's spent over, I can't remember what it is. We'll say $250,000 there. So we plan on, moving our entire production there, hiring all out of New York, and, getting a check cut from the state of New York for 20%.
Yeah, or if you can, if you can talk to a foreign sales agent before you cast, they might say, believe it or not, if you could get this random actor in this little 2-day role, you might have to pay him a little bit more, but he means something in terms of foreign sales.
Means something.
You wouldn't believe it, but this random guy who's done a bunch of movies, over the years.
In Hungary. He's big in Hungary.
He's huge in Hungary.
Yeah.
Like knowing that stuff, which you wouldn't know, you really do need to talk to somebody who does that, who's in foreign sales. You can take that to an investor and say, hey, look, here's more insurance. Here's more, more evidence that we know we're not just naively going into this, we're going into it with a game plan. And we even have maybe, if you can get, pre-sales on a name that you have attached to your movie, where foreign territories will say, yes, we will license your film to distribute, in this foreign territory based solely off the fact that that actor's in it. Sometimes it can be hard to get, but it can be gotten. And if you're out there hustling and trying to get that stuff, then that's much more appealing to an investor who's going to come in and say, okay.
It's a very different way of making a film than a lot of independent filmmakers go about, I think.
And we didn't have any of those things,
to
be honest. But we put them
bits,
in the business plan so that we at least made people aware that, we're aware of these things and we are going to try to do our best to find them. However, if you don't find them, you don't find them.
Right.
And a willingness to be resourceful too, saying, we've already got this location and that location in kind, like we're not paying a dime for it, and that might normally have cost us, thousands and thousands of dollars to rent that location. So to say to your, potential money people, look, we're resourceful. We're getting stuff for free. Yeah. We're not like sitting around waiting for someone to just hand us a big fat check that we're going to go squander. Right. That means something. So that's something we learned. We did to an extent when we were trying to find money, and now we've learned even more so how important it is now that we're kind of on the other side of having the movie out there. But it's definitely know your end game plan now, because it'll help you in the fundraising stages. Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are probably even more prepared now for the next film than you were for this one.
Sure, the next film will be easy.
And then the next film will be more prepared for the next one. So.
All we got to do is get $2 million.
We've got another question. This one is from @GarrettArtAuthor, and he asks, what are your post-production experience on at Fronted to Death and your previous projects? Was it tough without big tech background?
It's another good question.
Post is my favorite part of the movie making process, actually. I think it's tough, but I didn't realize it until,
Really?
I thought we just talked about this.
Did we?
Maybe not my favorite, but I really love it.
It obviously wasn't yours.
Well, I mean, no.
You like being on set,
Yeah,
right?
I do. I like being on set, yeah.
And I do too, but in post, there's less of that sense of like, we got to make our day, it's kind of, there is that, because you always want to be moving and cruising, but in post is where you get to kind of really make the movie, because prior to that, you're creating the pieces that you're going to use to put together to make the movie. But in post, especially with Friends to Death, the music and the sound design were so crucial to making this movie what it is and giving it the feel and the tone that it has. And so we didn't, we had like a kind of a sense of what that would be while we were shooting, but we didn't really see it actually come to fruition and whatnot until we were in post. And so
I think the music brings the comedy to a lot of pieces as well.
Sure.
So it's when you really start to see it.
Good. Yeah. And sound design does that too. And we had done a less full sound design on the web series, so I learned a lot through this about how much great sound design really can do. And so that was really edifying. But just going through it, I didn't have a ton of technical knowledge because, like I said, on the web series, the post-production process was a lot simpler, and this was much more involved on Friends to Death. But it was a very creative process because I was learning, like, oh, wow, look, all these things at my fingertip. Oh, we could do this. We could do that. I didn't even know you could use this as a way to shape the tone. Like, it's kind of fun and cool. And I was just kind of rolling with it as we went. I'll have my eyes open even more the next time around, but the lack of technical knowledge didn't stop me or anything, or us, or the movie, but I definitely learned a lot on the process, or through the process of post.
That's so interesting that you like post so much and you did it. What advice would you give about that?
I would
hire a post supervisor.
Yes, yes. I would definitely, because I didn't quite know what I didn't know about post at the time, and now I know a lot more, but if we had had somebody who knew the post-production process and could have streamlined it a bit more, that would have been helpful, because we lost a lot of time at each transition point saying, cool, what's next?
Yeah.
Oh, music, cool, now let's go find a composer. And we'd lose like a month and a half looking for the right composer.
Or a music supervisor or something. And, post supervisors, they have all that in their back pocket. And they're, while you're editing, they're working on getting the music supervisor in there. And that was something that I just, I feel like that was something I learned as a producer is.
Same, yeah.
You'll do that next time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
This next one is from @ChadD Dorak, and he asked for Sarah, how did you guys get such large distribution, and how did you establish those relationships with the distributors?
You guys ask good questions.
Yeah. This is something Ian can talk to too, because he was kind of right there with me on it. But we had back right around when we finished the film, we had gotten advice to do preview screenings for foreign sales agents and distributors, which basically means just hosting a couple screenings and inviting all those people to come and say, we've got this fresh content, like who wants to start the bidding, essentially.
And it was really great advice, because we had finished the film like literally right before AFM. So we were like, I think AFM was like maybe a month and a half away.
A month, maybe, yeah.
And so, we thought initially.
And what is AFM?
It's the American film market. So there are a couple different markets that you can sell your film in, and that's the one here in Santa Monica. And we thought, it's in usually like late October, early November. It coincides with AFI, the film festival. And so we thought we would take it there to sell it and get distribution that way. And we got this great advice to do these preview screenings prior to AFM, because everybody at AFM is running around trying to pitch their own projects. And, they're interested in movies that have, I don't know, Thomas Jane starring in it, and action and genre films and all of that. And so we did these 2 screenings of the film in the middle of the day, so people could leave work and come out and watch a movie, and it worked. We got a pretty good turnout both days, and from there we got a few offers. We had a few offers prior to AFM even.
Yeah, and then it was great because we were then able to follow up with a lot of
the people
who were interested. Some of them some had watched links because they weren't in LA, and we were able to follow up with them at the actual market because everybody and their mom is in town.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity to meet face-to-face with some people that we'd had email communication with about the movie around the time of the preview screenings. And then after AFM, we sort of followed up with everyone. And then in the months after that, we decided which company we wanted to go with and locked that deal down. So it was a little bit of a process, and we gave some time for it, but definitely think about doing preview screenings for any filmmakers out there that are looking for distribution.
That's really great advice. That's the first time I've had anyone talk about that on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea is that it creates a sense of urgency surrounding the selling of, the selling of your film or the picking up of your film. You want all the companies out there to feel like they're going to miss it if they don't act now, because they know all the other outfits in town are seeing it now too. So if they feel like, oh, well, they sent me some link, but I guess I've got some time to sit on it, then they're not going to act if they know that everyone else is, about to jump.
You should charge $13 to watch this video.
Yeah,
we'll split
not
it.
14, not 12, 13.
That's a good price point. This one's from @JackScollard, and he says in brackets, funny, weird question. Sarah, did you use a sun umbrella in real life?
Do I or did I?
Do you?
I should. I know all these people have been getting melanoma lately, sadly, but no, I don't. But I should. And I kind of like it as like a cool, like, this is my style. Everyone sees me miles away with my pink umbrella.
It was a very fun character choice for your character in the film.
It was fun, yeah. That's a good idea. I might reevaluate my personal style now in light of that tweet.
Even this right here, I think would work with an umbrella. What do you think? A pink umbrella?
Yeah, or I could go for a neutral color.
The pink would be eye-catching, though, for sure. Yeah. Walking around the Grove with a pink umbrella. I could see that.
But anyone who's seen this film will see me coming and run the other way.
Oh, but they'll... And everybody else will just think we're like way more famous than we actually are.
There's always that. This one is from Tanaha. I think a lot of us want to know how to get in the door with financiers and investors. Please tell us your secret.
Ask anyone and everyone you know.
You got to sleep with a lot of people.
That too.
Hey.
Yeah, definitely. Just asking and looking everywhere, because even people that you don't think could possibly lead to something, or someone that is interested in financing a movie, they could. And the person that you think will definitely be your lead could totally just lead nowhere. So that's what we found.
Yeah. And follow up with them too. Like really make sure that you follow up with people and don't be afraid to actually ask. Like put together a business plan before you start asking people or kind of feeling them out with scripts. Have that ready to go. So that way when they say, that's kind of a cool idea. Here's the business plan. Take a look and ask them.
And they only read investors typically. If they have money to spare to put into a film, they're probably generally successful people, and they probably don't have a ton of time to sit around and read multiple drafts of a script or multiple versions of a business plan. So assume that you have one shot. Yeah. Because, you don't want to be in that situation where you're realizing that was a golden lead and I sent them early draft of the script or the business plan wasn't really done and I wasted it. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah. But you have no idea how many like Facebook friends and stuff you go through and you're like, I sort of know that guy. Why shouldn't I approach him or her for financing? Like it's an investment opportunity and also kind of figuring out who's right for your film too. Like, in terms of investors, I think there are certain people that have certain causes or like ideals that, would be really right for the film. Or maybe they know somebody that, would have more money to spare that is interested in investing.
Real quick, because we're running out of time, but I know that you're very well read and you talked quite a bit about the business plan. Is there a book that you would recommend on writing a good business plan? Or how did you learn
Bankroll was pretty good. By Tom Malloy.
I don't know if they have a new, we read that a few years ago, so maybe there's a new, edition out. I don't know. But Bankroll, was it rolled or
I think it's just Bankroll. But Tom Malloy is the author. It was good. And then Yuso Lanoya, or Jeremy Yuso is his name, I believe. Jeremy Yuso's Getting the Money is another one that's good. But then also, just kind of looking at other business plans is really the best way. Yeah. It's like writing a script. The more scripts you read, the better writer you become. The more business plans you look at, the more you realize, look, I would never say this in a business plan, or this is a great point.
And put yourself in the shoes of the investor. Like if you had money that you were going to just give to somebody else to go make a movie, what would you want to hear?
A very risky investment.
Yeah, you don't want to hear them say like, cool, thanks, I'll see you later. You gotta think the way they might think. It's been helpful to know that. So.
You guys were so informative, and I am so glad that I got to see the film. How can other people see your film right now?
Many ways. Yeah. It's on iTunes. It's on all the
It just ran in theaters. Yeah. I don't believe it's still playing in theaters, but you might be able to check it out on MoviePhone or something. But yeah, iTunes, Hulu, Vudu,
all of those places.
And also on-demand cable providers. So if you have Time Warner, Comcast, DirecTV,
it's all on there too.
You can go on and rent it that way too.
It's Friended to Death. Is it friendedtodeath.com?
That's sort of our just a base page, but our Facebook page is a lot more current updates. So it's facebook.com/friended to death, and then I guess they're same thing on Twitter, twitter.com/friended to death.
All right. Well, we
Yeah.
hope that you guys will check it out. Thank you
Please
so
do.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It was really fantastic.